Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Around the Nation right here, Jeff Waldorf with you. Got a pretty good show for you guys today. Currently today, we are going to talk a lot about the Cohen hearings that are going on right now. So I picked up what I can, so it's going to be some of the earlier stuff, but we are going to talk about the Cohen hearings so far. But we also have some other stuff we're going to talk about, including threats towards Michael Cohen, and how Representative Matt Gaetz might be in a little bit of trouble over it. Fascinating. Then we have an update on Ivanka versus the Green New Deal, and now AOC. Oh, that's fun. So you're going to enjoy that one. And then, did Donald Trump hide his school records, and why? I'm going to talk about that. That is related to the Cohen hearing, but much more so, very, very interesting that there's a president that is hiding his school records. Oh, that's really weird. You're not going to be surprised to the answer to that. Then we'll go into, of course, Jim Jordan making an ass of himself. Excuse me there. Then Don Jr. also making an ass of himself. That's fun. And finally, Michael Cohen's warning to older Republicans that are defending Donald Trump right now. So, yeah, we're going to have fun. It's going to be a good show. It's going to be interesting. So, we are going to talk about that stuff. All right. Now, first off, I do want to, because it's not being talked about a lot, obviously, with the Cohen stuff, but Jayapal, I believe, has introduced Medicare for All into the House, the new Medicare for All bill. And from what I can tell, it's actually pretty good. So there's a lot of worries that it was going to be watered down. But so far, seems like it's good. I'll do more investigation into it. And, you know, I'll look into it a little bit more and see whether or not it continues to be a strong piece of legislation. So that, of course, is really, really important. And that's important stuff that's happening right now as well. So, nonetheless, Cohen hearings, kind of a big deal. So, we'll jump into that. But first, we'll do some other stuff. We'll do the AOC story first, and we'll dive into it. But before I go into that, I want to thank some patrons. So, let me call some names here. We have, hopefully I said these or didn't say these. I think I did say some of these yesterday. Darius Miles, Daryl Takara, Dave Stairs, David Brezhner, David Cook Jr., David Ellett, David Henry Thomas, David L. Leclerc, David Joseph, David Liebhopper, David Topher, David Ventiglia, sorry about that, Don Shorey, Debbie Bauer, Deborah, Decrepit Progressive, and Dincy Nublet. So, interesting names, like Decrepit Progressive, but nonetheless, thank you for your support. You are supporting progressive independent media, so thank you for doing that. You want to sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. Also, if you want to sign up to be a supporter through YouTube to become a channel member, you can do that as well. So that helps out the show. All right, now let's get into the AOC story. You're gonna love this. Okay, now hold on here. Okay, all right. So Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is now fighting back against Ivanka Trump after she criticized the Green New Deal. Now, this was during, of course, an interview on Fox, and she attacked some pieces of the Green New Deal, the universal basic income, and, of course, the guarantee, the job guarantee. Now, I want to show you what Ivanka Trump said and then get to the response from AOC. So first, let's go to that video of Ivanka.
I don't think most Americans in their heart want to be given something. I've spent a lot of time traveling around this country over the last 4 years. People want to work for what they get. So I think this idea of a guaranteed minimum is not something most people want. They want the ability to be able to secure a job. They want the ability to live in a country where there's the potential for upward mobility.
And look, unfortunately, we don't have that upward mobility, right? And guess what? The guarantee of a job for people who want to work and can't find work, that's actually a pretty good thing, right? So it would do those things that she would help, or that she would that she's trying to put forward. It would help do those things. But anyway, now she said, well, people don't want a minimum though. She then had to go back and clarify after getting basically reamed by a lot of people on Twitter. I did that segment yesterday, and she said, well, when I believe in a minimum wage, I mean, like $7.25, but still it's a minimum wage. In fact, she said, I support the minimum wage, just not a guaranteed minimum for people unwilling to work, right? Now, the thing is, of course, that she never talked about a living wage. And the administration that she works for, that she serves in, has been incredibly hostile to a living wage, preferring, of course, as Trump said, to eliminate the minimum wage. So now, after this, Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, fired back, and she said, quote, as a person who actually worked for tips and hourly wages in my life, instead of having to learn about it secondhand, I can tell you that most people want to be paid enough to live. A living wage isn't a gift, it's a right. Workers are often paid far less than the value they create. So now that's interesting, both interesting and true. So yes, unlike the millions and millions of dollars that she got from her daddy, and the millions, hundreds of millions of dollars that Trump got from his daddy, AOC actually had to work for it. So she had to work for it. She had to go to school to, learn a craft, and then, of course, pay for that by taking out student loans. And then, of course, she also worked as a bartender. So this is somebody with real-world experience who has worked out in the market. Ivanka has no experience working out in the job market. She has no experience with anything other than, oh, hey, you're the daughter of somebody who's wealthy and powerful. Here you go. Here's free stuff. The irony that she's talking about how people don't want free stuff is hilarious. She got all the free stuff in the world. Her extravagant lifestyle, all of her business, like the money, the opportunities for her business and being able to set up her own, things like clothing lines, etc. And all that free money and all the free money that she's going to get when her father dies. So that's free stuff. And she's like, well, everybody doesn't, nobody likes free stuff. Well, then, Ivanka, why don't you give up your free stuff? Why don't you give up all of your money, your extravagant lifestyle, and you go and you work as a bartender like AOC? Let's see how far you get when you have no opportunity, when you have to work at the bottom. I guarantee she would never make it. Now, there's more. AOC had more tweets. Now, she pointed out an important stat here. She said, wages are so low today compared to actual worker productivity that they are no longer the reflections of worker value that they used to be. And she also tweeted out a chart. I know, facts and logic, right? So let's take a look at that. We can bring that up. The gap between productivity and wages, right? So look at that. That's the great divergence. It's something that I like to point out all the time. And she said in that tweet, productivity has grown 6.2 times more than pay. And then I love this. And look, I love showing this graph because it really puts into perspective what is actually going on in the real economy. You can see productivity, huge. Wages, not so much. That huge gain, where is that money going? It is going, unfortunately, to the CEOs, to the top 1%, the shareholders, and it's not getting passed down to the worker. So these companies are more and more profitable, and they're more and more productive. The workers are, but the workers are not seeing their fair share of productivity. That is a big problem in America. That's why so many people are so angry. at the economy. That's why so many people were willing, I think, to vote against somebody who kept the status quo. That person being, of course, Hillary Clinton, and where they wanted to take a chance on someone else, anyone else, to try to help with that economic anxiety. Now, look, again, we're going to have this discussion about it wasn't just economic anxiety. Most of, or a big chunk of Trump supporters actually did vote for him out of racism and hatred. I get that. But then there are a lot of people, former Obama voters, people who are disenfranchised, the brick throwers, the people that are anti-establishment because they have been hurt by the establishment and they desperately want to change. There are those people as well. So, now, anyway, AOC had one more tweet to back that up. She said, imagine attacking a jobs guarantee by saying people prefer to earn money. And I love that. Right. Now, to be fair, Ivanka Trump isn't the smartest person. I know, shocker, right? No, what's different is I think we have a higher standard of her or from her because she has the ability to construct coherent sentences. But that does not make a person smart. It matters what you say. And more importantly, as I pointed out before, the woman hasn't worked a day in her life. And she is telling people who are struggling, who don't have money, what they want. She does not represent you. She has no idea. She's never spoken to anybody worth less than $1 million. I can almost guarantee it. And as far as this legislation goes, or I'm sorry, it's not legislation. It is a proposal. And it is a list of ideas that will get drafted into a piece of legislation once, the framers have drafted this piece, have drafted that up and have decided what they're actually going to try to put in a future piece of legislation. But as far as the idea of a Green New Deal goes, well, we've asked the American people. And guess what? A Green New Deal polls at 80%. It polls really high among, obviously, Democrats, over 90%, but 60% among Republicans. Even Republicans are like, yeah, Green New Deal sounds great. Yeah, let's actually, do something about climate and create tens of millions of great paying jobs. What's not to like about that? Well, there isn't anything not to like about that unless you're an oil executive, unless you're the CEO of ExxonMobil. Then, of course, you'll find all the reasons in the world to despise this. And if you're a Republican politician getting paid by those companies, in the form of legal bribes, then of course you're going to hate it. And if you're Ivanka Trump and you have no idea what you're talking about, but are influenced by propaganda and are actually part of that propaganda machine, then of course you're also going to despise it. So, but as far as she is concerned in her message, oh, please, Ivanka, continue to mindlessly believe that the American people don't want these things that are common sense, job guarantee, and a basic income, a basic standard of living. And we'll see how far that gets you. Okay. All right. So let's get to the next story here. Nope. We'll go with this. Then we'll go into how dumb Trump is. All right. So Representative Matt Gaetz might be in a little bit of trouble. See, today is the Michael Cohen hearing. And prior to that hearing, I should say, Gaetz decided to send a couple of tweets going after Michael Cohen. Now, this tweet says, hey, Michael Cohen, do your wife and father-in-law know about your girlfriends? Maybe tonight would be a good time for that chat. I wonder if she'll remain faithful when you're in prison. She's about to learn a lot. Well, now that's weird and interesting timing. For one, it seems to be a little bit of a threat. And not only that, that threat is directed towards Michael Cohen, who on the next day was scheduled to do a hearing. Interesting. Now, it turns out that this tweet might have been considered witness tampering. And at the very least, now the Florida bar is looking at removing Matt Gaetz. Now, for one, let me give you the details here. Francine Walker, spokesman for the Florida bar, confirmed to The Hill on Wednesday that the Bar Association has opened up an investigation into Gaetz and whether or not he violated professional conduct rules. So it's possible he could be, I think, disbarred. Now, the probe centers are on a tweet that Gaetz sent, as I read you before. Now, Gaetz is a staunch ally of the president, and you probably already knew that. And he received his law degree from the College of William and Mary in 2007. So that is important because, look, this tweet it definitely to me seems like witness tampering. And so that might be enough to get that law degree basically removed, right? So he will not be able to practice law. So that's interesting. Now, the Florida bar rules of professional conduct state that lawyers, quote, should conform to the requirements of the law, both in professional service to clients and the lawyer's business and personal affairs, and should use the law's procedures only for legitimate purposes and not to harass and intimidate others. Well, it appears that he has harassed and attempted to intimidate Michael Cohen. Now, they said that if the rules have been violated, the Florida bar will vigorously pursue appropriate discipline by the Florida Supreme Court. The Florida bar takes its responsibility of regulating lawyer conduct very seriously. Now, Gaetz responded through a spokesperson, and it said, it seems the Florida bar, by its rules, is required to investigate even the most frivolous of complaints. You threatened Michael Cohen with, I guess, what you would have possibly damaging information on him. Hey, tell your wife about maybe your girlfriends. I mean, maybe you should tell them about it because she's about to learn a lot. That is a definite threat. Witness tampering, absolutely. Now, Gaetz originally, and I love this, right, defended his comments, saying he was, quote, witness testing. Oh, no, guys, it's just witness testing. Testing. What are you testing? Well, obviously, I'm testing the witness and how he would respond to my threats. I mean, testing. Testing 1, 2. Come on, man. Really? Oh, no, it's witness tampering, right? It's witness testing, he says, which sounds a lot like trying to, put good names on doing bad things. Like, it's not torture, it's enhanced interrogation. Okay. Right. Nobody believes that, except for Matt Gaetz. Now, of course, he apologized, deleted that tweet, and said this, quote, while it is important to create context around the testimony of liars like Michael Cohen, it was not my intent to threaten, as some believe I did. You definitely did. I'm deleting the tweet, and I should have chosen words that better showed my intent. What is the intent of that tweet? Saying that, hey, watch out, your girlfriends are going to learn a lot. From who exactly? Are you saying you have information on Michael Cohen's girlfriends that you're going to tell his wife? Or somebody close to you, perhaps Donald Trump, has that information? What was the intent of that tweet other than to witness, intimidate Michael Cohen? Come on. It's obvious. Obvious. This is what happens when you're an ally of the president. And as Michael Cohen himself is going to say, or actually did say earlier, that this is the stuff that he gets you to do out of pure blind loyalty to him. So, good luck, Matt Gaetz. We'll see how the Florida bar views your tweet. But, okay. Moving on here. So President Trump calls himself a very stable genius. He says he has so much brain and that he's incredibly smart. He's the smartest. I'm the smartest. I'm the best. Nobody has such a big brain like I do. Right. Okay. So now what's interesting about that is if you were somebody who was incredibly smart, why would you go about hiding your grades in college and your SAT scores? Now, why do I say that? Well, that's because earlier today, during the Michael Cohen hearings, Cohen testified that he had threatened colleges on behalf of President Trump into not releasing those grades. Now, during the hearing, he said, quote, "I'm talking about a man who declares himself brilliant, but directed me to threaten his high school, his colleges, and the College Board to never release his grades or SAT scores." Now, in case you're wondering, come on, that can't be true, can it? Well, it turns out he brought receipts. He ended up giving Congress a copy of a letter he sent that threatened the schools with both civil and criminal action if grades and test scores were released. Now, Donald Trump, of course, attended the New York Military Academy and enrolled in Fordham University and then transferred to the University of Pennsylvania, from which he got a college degree, which of course makes you think, how is he smart enough to actually pass through college? I think you know the answer to that. Now, Fordham University confirms that Michael Cohen had done this, that he had threatened legal action. The former Trump organization lawyer told the congressional investigators, and this was backed up by Fordham, that he had indeed threatened the high school, colleges, and the College Board. Spokesman for Fordham confirmed to NPR that the representative from Trump campaign contacted the school toward the beginning of the race, asking about the release of school records. Quote, "We told the caller that Fordham is bound by federal law, and that we would not reveal/share any records. That was school policy, whether or not the former student was running for office." Now, after the call, Fordham received a follow-up letter from one of Mr. Trump's attorneys summarizing the call and reminding them that they would take action against the university if they did, in fact, release Trump's records. Fascinating. Gee, I wonder why he didn't want anything released. You guys know. You already know. He's dumb. I mean, just listen to when he talks. Listen about the things that he talks about. And then ask yourself, is that a smart person? Does that sound like somebody who's got their shit together? No, of course not. Look, his grades were probably awful, I'm guessing, right? This is my speculation. I think, though, the only reason that he graduated from college was because of Daddy. I mean, could you think of any other reason why someone would really like to hide their transcripts? It's not because you have awesome grades. Think about this, right? You should know who Donald Trump is by now, right? You should know if there's anything to brag about, he would be out there bragging. You think if Trump had a 4.0, that he'd be hiding it? No, he'd be out there saying, no, I have a 4.0. I have very strong grades. Very strong. The best grades. They're better than any grades that anyone has ever even seen before. I am a very stable genius. Come on, man. You know that's not it. No, you know the reason. You know the real reason. That's the reason that they would threaten these schools. Because he's dumb. Now, the irony here, of course, is you guys remember when he was going after President Obama's not only birth certificate, but school records as well. Republicans were asking, yeah, what about Obama? Release his school transcripts. You want to know why? Well, again, there's a couple of reasons. One, he knows he's dumb. Two, President Obama actually did really well in college. And he attained some very high positions when he was in college. So Trump couldn't believe that a black guy could be smarter than he is. Now that, of course, is old school racism right there. Couldn't stand it. Why do you think he despises President Obama? Look, okay, I guess maybe a couple of reasons on that. From when he watches Fox News, and Fox News is nothing but hate and vitriol towards Obama during the Obama years. But number two, again, it comes down to that old school racism. Ah, that black guy, there's no way he met it on his own. There's no way he could be smarter than me. Why? Because I'm superior. I got good genes. You always hear him talking about genes. Of course, that is the racism. He is an old school racism, or racist, thinks he's better than everybody else, and especially better than black people. So he can't stand the idea that a black person could have actually gotten better grades than him. And he knows it, and that's why he's fighting desperately to not release those school transcripts and SAT scores. He knows. He knows he's not smart enough. And that probably is one of the saddest things I've ever seen. Okay. So, okay, what we're going to do, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to come back. We've got some video on the Cohen hearings, so we're going to talk about that, including Jim Jordan, Don Jr., and, of course, other stuff. So the final message from Cohen, or I should say the final takeaway from Cohen, that I think is really important. And so we'll do that. We're going to read you some super chats if we have any after the break, but send those, and we'll be back in a couple minutes. Stay right here on The Nation. everybody, welcome back to the show. I'm on the Nation right here. Jeff Waldorf here with you. Super chat here from Mark Davis asking, have I covered what the administration did to Planned Parenthood? I did not. So, so here's the thing. I'm like one person. So, and you guys know that. I miss a lot of things. So if there's something you guys want me to cover, you can tweet me. That's one of the best ways to actually contact me is to say, hey, send a tweet and be like, hey, this is a story that I think is really, really important. Can you talk about covering this? You think about covering. So that is, as I said, that's a great way to get my attention because I actually do check my Twitter a lot. Okay. Anyway, so now, thank you for that super chat, Mark. And I'll look into it. I think there's something here, also before I get into the other stories that I think you guys will find, really important. And that is, other news that is not related to Cohen. So the U.S. House of Representatives has passed a bill expanding background checks for gun sales. Now, this is according to Reuters. The U.S. House of Representatives passed an expansion of background checks by a margin of 240 to 190. Of course, most Democrats obviously in favor, most Republicans not. Seems to be more of a party line vote. Now, it's going to go to the Senate, but it's really important because this is the first piece of gun legislation in 2018. So since the Democrats have retaken the House. So we'll see what happens. Look, the thing about this is that this should be a no-brainer, even for Republicans. Are you saying that you don't want more background checks? This is something that is supported by the American people 90 to 1. 90%. I don't know why I said 90 to 1, but 90% of Americans support expanded background checks. But of course, Republicans, they're going to say, and I think they already are, and they're saying, but it's such a burden to a gun owner. What gun owner needs a gun so quickly that they can't stand an expanded federal background check? Seriously. It just seems like they're giving cover to people who, want their guns and they want it fast. And you might want to wonder what kind of person does that. Nonetheless, this is also something that Trump said he was in favor of. He said, quote, I will strongly be pushing comprehensive background checks with an emphasis on mental health. Raise age and end the sale of bump stocks. Now, bump stocks, of course, they actually did do something about that, and I want to give them credit, right? But that's not the only thing. We actually do need to do a lot more. And this is just the first step, doing those bumps, ending the sale of bump stocks, and also doing the easiest thing, which is expanded federal background checks. So we'll see what happens when this goes to the Senate, Republican-controlled Senate. I don't have a lot of hope on that, but at least this shows what Democrats are willing to do, and I think it's important that they passed that they did this vote. So anyway, figured I'd give you an update on that. Okay. Anyway, let's move on to the Cohen hearings. Nope. There we go. So today the Michael Cohen hearing had been going on. Let me start that again. So today, the Michael Cohen, I don't know why I repeated myself. I'm not sure why. It's one of those days. It's been a very long day. I've been watching this Michael Cohen hearing all afternoon. Pretty much since I got up. But anyway, let's try this again. So during the hearing of Michael Cohen, Representative Jim Jordan, along with Mark Meadows, basically took point in questioning Cohen and mainly trying to attack his character. Now, during his questioning of Cohen, Jim Jordan started going after Cohen for some of his crimes, the crimes, of course, that he had admitted to and also, had pled guilty for, and accused him of being disloyal to President Trump. Now, I want to show you that video before I get to my analysis and reaction. But before I do that, I just want to tell you that the whole reason that he is doing this is because the plan is to make, this is the GOP plan, is to make Cohen an untrustworthy witness against Donald Trump, to invalidate anything that he testifies on, because they can point to him and say, what a liar. He is a lying liar. He is, he's untrustworthy. He's disloyal. You can't trust anything he says. And so if he says that Donald Trump did criminal things, well, then he's obviously lying. So with that in mind, let's show you the video here.
Chairman just gave you a 30-minute opening statement, and you have a history of lying over and over and over again. And frankly, you don't have to take my word for it. Take what the court said. Take what the Southern District of New York said. Cohen did crimes that were marked by a pattern of deception and that permeated his professional life. These crimes were distinct in their harms, but bear a common set of circumstances. They each involved deception and were each motivated by personal greed and ambition. A pattern of deception for personal greed and ambition. And you just got 30 minutes of an opening statement where you trashed the President of the United States of America. Mr. Cohen, how long did you work for Donald Trump?
Approximately a decade.
10 years?
That's correct.
You said all these bad things about the President there in that last 30 minutes, and yet you worked for him for 10 years? All those bad things, I mean, if it's that bad, I can see you working for him for 10 days, maybe 10 weeks, maybe even 10 months. But you worked for him for 10 years. Mr. Cohen, how long did you work in the White House?
I never worked in the White House.
And that's the point, isn't it, Mr. Cohen?
No, sir.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not, sir.
You wanted to work in the White House.
No, sir.
You didn't get brought to the dance.
Sir.
Oh, I love the projection here, right? Oh, you didn't get a job in the White House. You wanted a job in the White House. No, you didn't. No, actually being Donald Trump's personal lawyer and fixer actually made him a lot more money than he could ever work in the White House. And not only that, but more, I guess to some people, personal prestige. I don't know what's so prestigious about working for Donald Trump. But then again, I'm not like insane. There are some people, Cohen included, that considered the opportunity of working as President Trump's personal lawyer and fixer to be a dream come true. And so that's where he's at. But Jim Jordan's saying, you didn't get a job in the White House, so now you're lying. Really? That's your defense. That's your defense. I love it because it's absolutely hilarious. And it's just completely insane of an argument, right? How long did you work for President Trump? 10 years. Why would you work for somebody like that? Well, he said that he worked for him, even with all of that, because he had a sense of loyalty. And that's what, of course, Donald Trump wants you to do. He wants you to be 100% loyal to him, and then in return for, I don't know, loyalty back, or at least one would assume. But then again, Trump is a narcissist. I think he's got a sociopathic tendencies. And so it's one of those things where you kind of get sucked into that cult of personality around Trump. And I think that's what a lot of people around him end up falling into. Anyway, so now that's awesome. So let's go to social media, right? They were not buying this. They were not buying Jim Jordan's argument. And so I'm going to read a few tweets here. Let's start with Sam Cedar. Sam Cedar, part of the TYT network, right? So now he says, quote, Jim Jordan seems better at not reporting child predators than asking questions of witnesses. And of course, it's in reference to some of the trouble that Jim Jordan might have gotten into during his college, maybe not college wrestling, but when he was a college coach. So now there's more. Empty Wheel says, shorter Jim Jordan, what kind of sleazebag would you have to be to defend someone like Donald Trump? You know, that argument doesn't actually look good for Donald Trump. And the more the Republicans hammered on that, by the way, they hammered on that, Donald Trump's such a terrible person. Michael Cohen is such a horrible, terrible, lying, sleazy, awful person. And so what kind of person hires that kind of awful, terrible, horrible, lying, sleazy person? That's a good question. Look, I said before, the lying and stuff, that's not a bug. It's the feature. That's the whole point of hiring someone like Michael Cohen. Because you yourself are a terrible person, and you surround yourself with terrible people that are willing to do your bidding. That can sometimes be illegal. There's more. Cy Hirsch says, the only thing Cohen didn't do well was tell Jim Jordan, that is, quote, someone who also covers up for their coworkers' abusive behavior, I thought you'd be more sympathetic to me. Now, of course, that's what Jim Jordan had allegedly done, covered up for a coach, a coworker of his. Jess Dweck says, it's a refreshing change to see Jim Jordan abuse an adult. Oh. Nicole Perez says, Miss Plaskett is me listening to Jim Jordan during the Michael Cohen testimony. Ann Coulter weighed in. Now, that's interesting, right? So Ann Coulter is somebody who wrote a book called In Trump We Trust, right? In Trump We Trust. She is now going after Trump. And she said, GOP might want to drop the argument that working in Trump's White House is some sort of Xanadu, the absence of which caused Cohen to declare war on the president. This was a plea bargain. Idiots. Look, Ann, your entire side is surrounded, is full of idiots. What do you expect? These people, Jim Jordan, Mark Meadows, are basically playing the role of Michael Cohen. The role that Michael Cohen had to abdicate after he had got caught with his hand in the cookie jar. That's what happened here. Pradeep Shankar says, Jordan did a great job showing the sleazy guy worked for another sleazy guy for a decade. Julian Sanchez says, Jim Jordan is trying, quote, everyone is lying about Trump because they didn't get the job they wanted. I can't think of any previous administration where this is how people reacted to not getting administration jobs. That's a good point, because there are a lot of people that didn't get administration jobs in previous administrations, and nothing like this happened. Why? Because this administration is different. This administration actually is like the Nixon administration. That's what it's most parallel to, and what it's most like. And so we see this, right? Ben says Jim Jordan's narrative attempt was stupid. There's plenty of low-hanging fruit, dishonest motivations he could have assigned to Cohen, and he chose the least likely one, him getting a job in the White House. Because it says, as I said before, he already had the job that is closest to Donald Trump. Liz Mayer says, maybe it's just an effort to portray himself as so effing dumb that he couldn't possibly have known of any potential wrestler sex abuse at OSU while coaching there. As of late last year, DOJ was going to look at how athletic sex abuse allegations were handled. An interesting defense. Juan Carlos Planas says, when do we get to hear from poor kids who molested as wrestlers by their doctor at Ohio State when Jim Jordan was their coach and didn't report the abuse? Another good question. And then finally, Ferdinand R. Amandi says, question. You know which person I'd never ever wish, even on my worst enemy, to be their legal counsel? Answer, Jim Jordan. Look, man, this was embarrassing for Meadows and Jordan. But you saw what they were trying to do. The whole purpose was to muddy the waters. The whole purpose was to paint Cohen as someone who is a liar and a snake. And look, let's be honest. We know he's a liar. We know he's a liar. We know he's a terrible person. But here's the one thing that they're missing. Michael Cohen has nothing left to lose. Nothing. And that's it. He is down to where he has already lost everything. There's no real point for him to not be honest about this. He's already taken his punishment. It's not like Paul Manafort. Now, Paul Manafort is someone who has, yes, he is also in the process of losing everything. But yet, you can tell he is still in favor of Donald Trump. He is still helping Donald Trump, and he has still been lying for him. So, that is in direct contrast to Michael Cohen, who I think at this point really just wants to be done with this whole thing. He has lost everything, as I said before. He's been dragged. And again, he deserves it because he is a terrible person and he deserves to get jail time. But at the same time, there is nothing left for him to gain and nothing left for him to lose. So there's just, why not be honest with it? And I think that's what's going on here, is he is being honest. And the Republicans, people like Jim Jordan, Mark Meadows, and a lot of the Trump supporters, they don't want to hear that anymore because it's damaging. And of course, projection, right? Because we know a lot of these Republicans want good White House spots and want to continue to suck up to power in the hopes that they get power. So that's what I think about that. Okay. Let's, all right. Let's do one more Twitter Reacts segment. And let's go to what I'm basically been talking about. Does Cohen have a reason to lie? Well, Donald Trump Jr. thinks so. Okay. So one question on the minds of a lot of people watching the Cohen hearings today is, does Michael Cohen have a reason to lie? Now look, Michael Cohen is a liar. He's lied for Donald Trump for over a decade. So of course he's not, he was seen to not be the most reliable witness. And at the same time, however, his, answers have been backed up by checks that he's shown. He's brought the receipts. And at this point, he pretty much has nothing left to lose since he's taken a plea deal. However, there's one person that's not buying it, and that's Donald Trump Jr. Now, Donald Trump Jr. had accidentally retweeted something that he is getting mocked on social media for related to this. Now, this came from Garrett M. Graff, right? Now, Garrett M. Graff tweeted this. He said, "Incredible to see all the hubris drained from Cohen. I've been personally screamed at by Cohen on the phone before, and I know how much bravado he once had. This is a man with nothing left, with no reason to lie or obfuscate at all. Humbling in its way." Now, look, that I think that's an excellent take. That's an excellent tweet. Donald Trump Jr., being so dumb, accidentally retweeted this. Why? Because he had read, I think, the first line. This is all the hubris drained from Cohen. Retweet. Awesome. Graff also even mocked Trump for his Trump Jr. for his retweet, and said that his decision just underscores Cohen's testimony that his father believes Don Jr. has the, quote, worst judgment of anyone in the world. So, of course, Twitter came in to do what it does best and mock Donald Trump Jr., starting with James Sirowecki. Says, Don Jr. retweeted this, which tells you all you need to know about his judgment and his attention span. Ken Klippenstein just wrote, just amazing. Relatable Brand says, in a family of Fredos, he is the most Fredo. Levi Harris says, well, now we know Cohen's comments on Don Jr. and Dad were true. Look, man, he is not the smartest Trump. You know who the smartest Trump is? Tiffany, for staying the hell away. A.K. Butler says, when teachers talk to students about reading comprehension, this is Exhibit A of read the whole prompt before responding, which obviously Don Jr. wasn't able to do. Charlie Newton says, I believe Jr. doesn't know what the words hubris, obfuscate, bravado, or humbling mean. That wouldn't shock me. Your drunk uncle says, I think he only read the first half of the tweet. That seems obvious. I would expect, this is Q's supervisor, I would expect something like this from Slow Eric. No, see, this revives the debate here. Who's the dumber one? Dumber, like, is Don Jr. dumber? Or is it Eric Trump? It's the debate of the century. And finally, Nazi Puncher says, he's so dumb, it's shocking. No, it's not shocking anymore. He's always been this dumb. He literally is the Fredo of the Trump family. No, he's smart and he wants respect. He will get none from Twitter. That's for sure. Okay. One more here. Okay. So during his hearing today, Michael Cohen had a strong warning for people like Jim Jordan and Mark Meadows, who are continuing to defend President Trump. During his testimony, when confronted by Jim Jordan, he said this. Watch.
There are several factors. Helsinki, Charlottesville, watching the daily destruction of our civility to one another, putting up silly things like this.
Oh, that's silly.
Really unbecoming of Congress. It's that sort of behavior that I'm responsible for. I'm responsible for your silliness because I did the same thing that you're doing now for 10 years. I protected Mr. Trump for 10 years. And the fact that you pull up a news article that has no value to it, and you want to use that as the premise for discrediting me, that I'm not the person that people called at 3 o'clock in the morning, would make you inaccurate. In actuality, would make you a liar, which puts you into the same position that I am in. And I can only warn people, the more people that follow Mr. Trump, as I did blindly, are going to suffer the same consequences that I'm suffering.
Okay, so that right there is pretty powerful, right? He's got a warning. Like, you guys are doing the same thing that I used to do. Wake up. Wake up, man. You are doing exactly, I've been down this road before, and guess what? It leads to nothing but ruin. He also followed that up by saying, I had a wonderful life. I have a beautiful wife. I have 2 amazing children, and I achieved financial success by the age of 39. I didn't go to work for Mr. Trump because I had to. I went to work for him because I wanted to, and I've lost it all. So if that in and of itself isn't enough to dissuade somebody from acting in the callous manner that I did, I'm not sure that any person has any chance, very much like I'm in right now. That's powerful, man. Again, it is very clear that these Republicans, Jordan and Meadows, are doing exactly what Cohen used to do. Defend Trump at all costs. Because Donald Trump demands loyalty, right? This is why all the questioning on Cohen from Republicans is about discrediting his testimony. That's what he used to do. Muddy the waters. Make it that anybody making allegations and claims against Trump are deemed untrustworthy, considered untrustworthy, because of how damaging their testimony actually will be to President Trump. They're not even pretending, right? They're not even pretending to not be doing that. The whole purpose of this hearing was not to talk about Michael Cohen's character. It's to talk about what Michael Cohen knows about Donald Trump and the Trump organization and how it runs. Unfortunately, the Republicans were only interested in one thing, a political spectacle, derailing this and muddying the waters. It's the same thing Cohen did on behalf of Trump. I don't know what it is that makes people vociferously defend him. I don't understand. Because all I've seen is that the loyalty that these people give to President Trump later on is betrayed in the end. I just don't understand. And that's why this next part is important. I want to read that, right? He said, when Mr. Trump turned around early in the campaign and said, I can shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and get away with it, I want to be very clear. He's not joking. He's telling you the truth. You don't know him. I do. I've sat next to that man for 10 years, and I watched his back. Everybody's job at the Trump organization was to protect Mr. Trump. Every day, most of us knew we were coming in, and we were going to lie for him on something. And that became the norm. And that's exactly what's happening right now in this country. It's exactly what's happening here in government. He took what he did in business, and he is doing it in government. And everything that we've seen from the White House, the leaks, the ex-staffers talking to reporters, shows that that is that situation. That everyone around him lies. Now, the thing about Cohen is that Cohen, he even admitted in that testimony that Trump used a certain code. And I understood that code. I knew exactly what he wanted me to do and how he wanted me to do it. That sounds a lot like what mob bosses would do. And people that worked with organized crime. Hey, I knew exactly what he meant when he said this particular thing. I knew exactly what he wanted me to do. It's stuff that you hear in Capone meetings, right? Or in the Capone hearings. So, look, man, lying, threatening, using his own money to pay off women that he's had sex with, he lied, he cheated, and stole. And this is just Cohen, right? He's going to prison for it. This is all while he, and he actually did a lot of this stuff. A lot of his crimes were on behalf of Donald Trump. And here you still have Trump sitting in the highest office in the land. Now, it's got to burn the guy up, right? But again, during that testimony, you could tell, you get the sense that he has nothing more to lose. And that's why he's being honest. He's already lost everything for Trump. Imagine devoting your life to someone, to protecting someone like that. Someone who is a pathological liar, who has no loyalty to you, and yet expects 100% loyalty from you. Now, of course, the interesting part about this whole hearing has been how Republicans, their strategy was to point out how horrible and untrustworthy Cohen is. But that, of course, makes you wonder, if Cohen is so bad, why did Trump keep him by his side for 10 years? Well, it's because of two things, right? One, Donald Trump saw in him some of the qualities that Republicans are pointing out today. That he has no qualms with lying, with threatening people, and doing shady business. That's not a bug, it's the feature. And in Michael Cohen, I think Donald Trump found parts of himself. The ability to lie shamelessly, criminally, in order to win. And that's the thing that he cares about the most. And of course, the second thing is loyalty, which up until the FBI raided his office and took away that wonderful life that he had, that loyalty was absolute. And if you remain loyal to this person, someone like that, who has this mantra of win at all costs, then I think in the service of that, and we saw that with Representative Matt Gaetz, who is now under investigation by the Florida Bar Association for tweeting out threats to Michael Cohen on behalf of Donald Trump. Now, it's not I'm saying that Donald Trump directed him to do that. No, I don't think that at all. But these people get it in their head. They're such sycophants towards the president that they go, you know what? Yes, I am going to do that because I think it's a good thing to do so I can protect the president, so I can protect Donald Trump. That's the stuff he makes you do. He gets you to do and gets you to believe that you're doing it because you want to do it. That's the lesson of Michael Cohen. You will do these things, and he is warning you. And unfortunately for these pro-Trump Republicans, they're not going to heed that advice until it's too late. Sad. Okay. So, that's it. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for going around the nation. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Please like and share the videos. Thank you to the super chats, people sending in the super chats. LOL says, by the way, pretty rich coming from a dude who failed to protect athletes from sexual abuse and in fact looked the other way, in reference, of course, to Jim Jordan. Thank you, LOL. Thank you, Mark. Thank you to all the patrons. Thank you to everybody who's tuned in and subscribed and liked the channel. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so. All right, guys, I got to go. TYT is on now. Also, if you're interested, status quo, that is also something that is on now. So, hey, there's plenty of options for you to watch. So, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you. Love you guys. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. We'll see y'all tomorrow.